So today's Shiur, we are in the beginning of the 3-week period. Yesterday was Schwartz, a very significant day. Chazal tell us that these Ta'anios are not just relevant to the past, but of course relevant to our generation, in that if the Beis HaMikdash is not rebuilt in our day, that means that we did not merit it. It's not merely a historical thing, which means we have work to do to be worthy of the rebuilding. And we read the story of Pinchus on the one hand and Matos on the other hand, and I want to focus on a couple aspects of that parak, and particularly the Benot Zalachad, who are our heroes in the story. And let's begin there. The Benot Zalachad are called Benot Zalachad. That's question number one. They really should be called by their names, right? What are their names? Who remembers their names?
Tirza.
Okay, Tirza is the last of them, the ways listed here. There's two different ways that Benot Zalachad are listed. Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka, and Tirza. Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka, and Tirza. Notice that each of their names ends with a hey. Okay? Each of the names ends with a hey. You're welcome to sit at the table, there's plenty of...
We're here.
Now, if you dissect the names just a little bit, they each have their own kind of message. But still, as beautiful as their names are, they're not even known by their names. What are they known as? Benot Zalachad. And one would think that they were entitled to have their own names because they're having their own chelek, right? After all, the whole point is that they're going to get their own nachla in Eretz Yisrael. Well, not their own nachla, but the nachla that's worthy to them. 3 portions, the Mishnah Bava Basra tells us. The portion of Tzalachad, who was one of the Yotzei Mitzrayim, who left Egypt. The portion of the portion that was inherited by Chefer, right, who was one of the sons, and therefore one of the portions belonged to the brothers.
He died?
Yeah, he was already gone. It says Chelko Imachi B'nitzei Chefer, because he had, Tzalachad himself had inherited a portion from Chefer, so he had a double. He had his own portion, plus he had a share of his father's portion. And there's a whole very long and complicated discussion in the Bava Basra exactly how the Shiur can divvy out. It's worthwhile to study. Was it like that everybody got a ticket, and then you got to cash it in for your portion? And what size was the portion?
According to this family, big family that they lived in Florida.
But the Gemara seems to say that it actually was not based on size only, but it's a very complicated discussion. It's about pasta. But let's just put it this way: the way that the Mishnah is saying it is that 3 portions, even though per portion of the nechasim of Chefer, right, was shared, but their portion of the nechasim of Tzalachad was full. So it's not quite the same, yet it seems to be the same. So it calls them 3 halakim. It seems to be 3 equal shares. This bears explanation, but to go on from that, leave that for a moment. And V'shahaya B'chor Natal Shnei Halakim. Their father was a firstborn. So since their father was firstborn, he had a double portion. So these equal 3 portions. Now I'm not going into the size of each one, but 3 portions, numerically at least.
And this was divided between the 5 of them?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion exactly how that happened. Now, let's just talk about how, the first question is, why did Benot Zalachad? After all, Tzalachad, they by their own testimony committed a chet. What's the machloket between the Tanoim, Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Shimon as to what the chet was? Makoshesh Eitzim. Rabbi Akiva said he's Makoshesh Eitzim, whereas Rabbi Shimon says no, he was from the Ma'apilim. Remember those who didn't want to accept the decree that they would die in the Midbar, and the day after the Meraglim, which is the day after the Shabbat, they started to go, and they were beaten back by the Canaanim and the Amalekim. So that beating back included the death of Tzalafchad, according to Rabbi Shimon. And those are two very different things. You know, the Ma'apilim sounds very appealing, right? That, you know, he was like, a good guy. He wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. But Makoshesh Eitzim on Shabbos? I mean, nobody was Machal Shabbos. Nobody dared be Machal Shabbos. We have no record of anybody in the Midbar with the messing around with Shabbos, with the exception of Dasan Ta'aviva. What do? They put out man on Shabbos morning to shame Moshe and to discredit Moshe, to say, oh, you see, the man did fall, but then it went. It wasn't there. I'm sorry.
Even though they say that the crochet should seem that he did it, he was schooled because he wanted to show.
Okay, so there's a third opinion. There's an opinion in the Sifrei that Tzalofchad was a tzaddik, and Rashi actually clearly states that Tzalofchad was a tzaddik, although it doesn't say it in so much terms. Hence, it's proper to say that there were no Tzalofchad, because what they're really saying is that they were the daughters of a hero, not a villain. But where do you see that in Rashi? Rashi here, when they appear in Pinchus, says that the way that they're listed shows that their entire generations, Tzalofchad ben Chefer, ben Gilad, ben Machir, ben Menashe, lemishpachas Menashe ben Yosef. Okay, I get it. If they're from Menashe, then they must be from Mishpachas Menashe ben Yosef. You hear the kasha? So the pasuk is very redundant. Beno Tzalofchad are identified as ben Chefer, ben Gilad, ben Machir, ben Menashe. And remember, Machir is special. Why is Machir special? The Mishpachas Menashe ben Yosef, that's that famous Machir who was born on the...
He was Yosef was his son, didn't he?
And yeah, he grew up on the lap of Yosef HaTzadik, pretty big tzaddik. Says Rashi, since they're listed in this manner, with this extra phrase, L'mishpachas Menashe, it's indicating that they were all tzaddikim, like Yosef and Menashe and Machir. So too was Gilad and Chefer and Tzalofchad and all the Banos. That's Rashi. Rashi says it clearly that they were all tzaddikim. How could Rashi understand this? We only have two possibilities. Either he's from the Ma'apilim, or, meaning the ones who went back to Eretz Yisrael by force and were beaten, or he was Makoshesh Eitzim. What did Makoshesh Eitzim mean? He gathered sticks. Makoshesh Eitzim, gathering sticks. Now, gathering firewood. Ostensibly, what did they need firewood for? They're going to cook the man. You can eat the man as it was. It's true that the pasuk does say that the man tasted like a fried cake, but it doesn't mean that the man couldn't be eaten as is. So what did he need wood for? Was it cold?
Make barbecues.
It's very interesting. Never thought of that. If you're correct, I'm sorry.
What was the other?
Sarulea also. You're sitting next to a Sarulea. So that would make sense if we understand that he was a carbon.
He was a carbon?
He was a carbon. He was Makriv himself. Hence, he was gathering the wood for his own Mizbeach. Like Akedas Yitzchak, where they gathered the wood. And he was offering himself as a carbon. What kind of carbon? A carbon ola. That goes up all to Hashem. And when do we bring carbonos like that especially? Special carbon? On Shabbos. And on Yom Tov. So, if he offered himself as a carbon, the carbon that he was being makriv was something to do with Shabbos, right? So, So some of the Meforshim say, I was looking frantically up from Makoros, there's a Bear Mind Chaim, there's other things that suggest that since his episode is right after the Meraglim, when there was this horrible disappointment, which is why the two Pshatim are, one of the Pshatim is that he went up and tried to go against the decree of the Meraglim because it happened chronologically then, in the beginning, right, close to Yetziat Mitzrayim, right, in that second year where the Meraglim took place. This episode that we're hearing about now is at the end of the 40 years, when they're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. They're demanding their portion after Moshe, at the end of his life, where Aaron's already passed away and Miriam's already passed away. And now they're going to divide the land, but Moshe is not going to be entitled to do that. Only Elazar HaKohen, the son of Aaron, will go over, and Yeshua will go over. But Moshe's still there. He begins the conquest, right? He begins the conquest of Sichon and Og. Sichon and Og. The places where who will end up living? Who ends up living on that other side of the Yarden?
Reuben,
Gad,
Gad,
and
Shevet,
Shevet Menashe.
He
From
was
whence
sent.
the Benos Lefchad arrived. Okay, hold on to that. Which means that the Benos Lefchad, if they were coming to demand their portion now, it may have very well been because they knew that Moshe was or they anticipated that those tribes wanted very badly to remain, as we see, as the Parsha then evidences, that they come and they say, this is what's for us. We knew. Being a Bas Menashe from that tribe, she had to know that as they conquered the land of Sichon and Og, prominent elements of that were the desire of Menashe to be on the other side. Also on the other side.
Actually, Menashe didn't desire that. Moshe actually sent him to be like a good watchdog.
Okay. So we need a little Yosef HaTzadik. Well, I've suggested here before in the Shiur that there had to be a mix between Yehuda, the sons of Leah and the sons of Rachel had to be mixed because that's what Eretz Yisrael is. It's a combination. It was a mini Israel, meaning that you had to have some of Leah's children and some of Rachel's children together, because otherwise it's not an Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the union of those two seemingly oil and water opposites. But that's what it is, because Eretz Yisrael requires achdus, and that's not so simple. But in any case, I did some research as to where the Benos Lefchad actually eventually did take their portion. Okay, I will tell you that it seems that they took their portion in Eretz Yisrael proper.
Do we know it? Where?
You look at the Yoshua, and I'll owe you that makor for next time. But I did some research on that a while back, and it did seem to me that I postulated that they must have taken on April Yarden because that's relevant to their request. But the truth is that it was not Lavdavka. They were going for broke. They were going for real Eretz Yisrael, not Eretz Yisrael Plus, as they say in Israel. Greater Eretz Yisrael.
Where would that have been?
North. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shachar v'dor. You know where the Alfei Menashe is? You know where that is there's a northern portion that belongs to Menashe. Okay. So let's go back to our question. So was Lefchad a tzaddik or a balchet? They called him a bechet omet. Bechet omet. Now listen, let's face it. Everybody knows that he died. It was one of the most celebrated events. Unfortunate public events. There were two people who were publicly executed by Moshe Rabbeinu. Who were they? The Makoshesh Eitzim and the Mevarach Hashem. Remember the Ben Ish Mitzri?
But he wasn't a tzaddik.
He wasn't a tzaddik, but you know what? He also wanted a portion in Eretz Yisrael. Think about it. He wanted to be part of Shevet Dan. His mother was the only difference between him and the Benos Lefchad is that he didn't ask, he took. Manners. Don't take. He went into the tribe of Dan and staked out his tent and said, I'm sorry, my mother's from Dan and I'm here. No, you're not. What would have happened if he would have asked Moshe? Maybe the same thing that happened to Benos Levcha. That we would have granted a wish, but he didn't ask. He felt entitled and he took. That's why he's called a Ben Ish Mitzri, because he didn't zocha to be a true Ger Tzedek. Who would have asked? Okay. So Shlomis Bas Dibri from the tribe of Dan was the only woman who was abused by an Egyptian man, and she didn't even know because he beat her husband and he snuck in and replaced him. And that's why Moshe saw him being beaten the next day, because the Mitzri wanted to kill him because he knew that something went on. And so instead, Moshe kills the father, kills the Mitzri that's trying to kill his father.
How did he know?
How did Moshe know?
No.
How did the son know that who his real father was?
Oh, he was an orphan. He grew up with his mother. He was an orphan. Shlomis Bas Dibri. His father had passed away. Maybe his father passed away as a result of those beatings. Very well be. Never made it out. Maybe he never made it out of Mitzrayim. I'm not sure. But in any case, he wasn't such a bad guy. He wanted to be part of Dan. He wasn't trying. But then his essential nature came out and he cursed Hashem. So it shows that his desire to be part wasn't really altruistic. It was more motivated by his own personal selfishness, unfortunately. So that wasn't that. But let me suggest something very radical. So Lavchad, if we've said now, we're going to suggest that he gathered the wood, except your shot, he gathered the wood for his own carbon, and he made himself a carbon ola of Shabbos. Why? Because when they found out that they weren't going to Eretz Yisrael, they might have thought, who needs mitzvahs? Eretz Yisrael and Shabbos are intrinsically linked, as we have learned many times. All the mitzvahs of sevens relate to Eretz Yisrael. Shemitah, Yovel, and its highest manifestation, right? And then the mitzvah of keeping Shabbos is what gives us the merit to stay in Eretz Yisrael. It's what's unique about Eretz Yisrael and Am Yisrael. Nations of the world don't have it. Just like the nations of the world don't have Eretz Yisrael, they don't have Torah and they don't have Shabbos, which is the Kedushas Hazman. They don't have the Kedushas Haguf of Bnei Yisrael, the physical holiness, and they also don't have the eschatological holiness. That has to do with time. Okay?
Repeat that word.
Eschatological. It has to do with time.
I always want to know what that word means.
Right. Looking at a long sequence of time. So, that's from solid ages. So anyway, he uses that word. So the concept being that Klal Yisrael became weakened in their desire to keep mitzvos, because they had linked the idea of keeping these mitzvos with the promised land of Eretz Yisrael. Shemitah. I'm going to get my land. Of course I'll keep Shemitah. Of course I'll keep Shabbos, which is a reflection of the mitzvah of Shemitah, into my daily life. Of course I will, but give me the land. If you don't give me the land, what do I need Shabbos for? I don't need Shabbos. Maybe I don't need Shabbos, they would think. Comes along Tzlachad, and he dies al Kiddush Hashem, to show everybody, no, not only is Shabbos in force, but as little as picking up a piece of wood, which is, some say, there's opinions in Mar Shabbos what the sin was. Which one of the 39 malachos is gathering wood? What could it be, theoretically? Some say, well, it's not. It could be bower if you think about it, but Mar says ma'amir, like making bundles, or hotzah. He was carrying it around Bamidbar. Now the truth is Bamidbar seems to be in the wilderness, but it could be that he was going out of he brought it in to the camp. Right? So he carried.
Any of the malachas of
Well, we don't find that he built anything yet. Yes. Of the malachos in the Gemara Shabbos, they suggest it was ma'amir or hotzah. Could be bower, perhaps. But
I don't know.
Did he actually go onto the carbon and kill him?
no.
Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is when somebody gathers wood.
No, I'm talking about, he said he wanted to go into the carbon.
That's why he gathered wood.
But I'm saying, was he the Korban when he went on to the Korban?
Well, he kind
was
of was
killed.
Korban, but not like,
He was killed.
But he
Because
was
I
killed
hate
later.
Hashem.
Yeah.
But he wasn't, he didn't.
No, he didn't actually make himself a physical korban, meaning that
Because I know.
he knew that his life would be, that was
he
his
sacrificed
toll.
his life to teach.
Leamos you must. What?
He sacrificed his life to teach a principle.
The sanctity of Shabbos. Shabbos is sacrosanct because he knows Shabbos is the key to Eretz Yisrael. It's our schus for Eretz Yisrael, and it's intrinsically linked with the spiritual nature of Eretz Yisrael. Az tirtza haaretz es shabso seima. What do you mean? We didn't do Shemitah, so we get kicked out so the land can have a rest. What does the land need a rest for? What's it going to do? Well, it wants to go to the beach. What does it want to do? Lelech layam? Beged yam? No. It's like a living entity that has sanctity and has feelings, or I like to call it experiences, dimensions of spirituality that other lands do not have. Eretz Yisrael is a living entity, very much so.
It has a soul.
It has more than a soul. It has a Jewish soul. It has a divine soul. It's, right? It's uniquely bound up with Hashem. And we're going to talk about that in a second when we get to the Rabbanos. But no, this is why when we go into Galus, Eretz Yisrael goes into Avelus. You know, that's Rachel, Bavakal, Banea. The land cries, along with the Avos, along with Kosh Baruch Hu. In this 3-week period, Mishnah Berurah says, brings down the minhag of saying Tikkun Chatzos, which is you're supposed to say every night. Tikkun Chatzos. You know what Tikkun Chatzos is? Tikkun Leah and Tikkun Rachel, exactly. That follows my theory that you had to have Tikkun Rachel and Leah in the Eivah Yarden, otherwise it's not Eretz Yisrael, because Eretz Yisrael has the dimension of Rachel and Leah. What is the dimension of Rachel? Is the exile. What is the dimension of Leah? The return. If you look at the prayers of Tikkun Chatzos, have you ever studied them? It's relevant to this video. Tikkun Rachel is basically a couple of Tehillim and a few laments about the Korban. Tikkun Leah is Tehillim, but actually yearning for the Beis HaMikdash, and it ends, it's capped off by reading the first chapter of Maseches Midos, Mishnayos. What is that? That describes the morning ritual of the Kohanim sleeping in the Beis HaMikdash with their clothes, folded under their heads, which is a shayla. How can you keep it under your head? You're not supposed to benefit from it. It's no problem. But they slept. That's what he says. That they slept with, and they would get woken up in the morning, and they had to go to the mikveh early. And if you were lucky enough, you got a chance. They did a lottery, and you could win the prize of bringing a korban. But the first thing that they auctioned off, well, the first thing not auctioned, that was the first privilege given out, was to clear off the ashes of the Mizbeach. And it describes the Mishnah very beautifully how they would march in a procession. But the person who went into the Mizbeach went alone. And he only was lit by the torches on the sides of the walls. They couldn't even see him. They would hear him. And they would say to him, you can start the Trumat HaMizbeach. He was all alone. And those ashes miraculously disappeared.
Not the couple.
No, any Kohen.
What do you mean they disappear?
They disappeared. That's the tradition. They would be swallowed by the earth next to Mizbeach. They were just like, there was a sinkhole over there.
Who was swallowed?
The ashes taken off a big pile, and he did it with a very special silver thing.
That's how they got rid of their garbage.
And they got ready for the day. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. That's not exactly mourning the Beis HaMikdash in my book. it's like pretty optimistic. We don't get,
We don't do
Jews
it.
never get too deep into mourning, and they never get too happy either. That's when we break glass by the chasana to make everybody worried about Chok Beis Hamikdash. We sing Mishkat Yerushalayim at the peak of our joy, and when we're in Tisha B'Av, and when we're saying Tikkun Chatzos, we think about we're already back in the Beis Hamikdash, and we're already cleaning off the Mizbeach, and everything's hunky dory. It's amazing. You're just no. That's the great power, as we spoke about last week, for those who were here, not here, but there, but here, in the Shiur, about Rabbi Akiva, who had the good eye. He could look at the most tragic of circumstances and see only good. Right? Rabbi Akiva. And yet, what does Rabbi Akiva say about Tzolachad? He says that he was a makosha, he was a violator of Shabbos. 1 second. Rabbi Akiva never sees bad in anybody. Right? Or in anything.
He did.
But not Tzolachad.
Maybe the reason.
Yeah. Because if you learn that he gave the Mesiras Nefesh for Shabbos, then Rabbi Akiva was pointing out that that was a big mitzvah that he did. At least, it was a mitzvah baba aveira. It was to die al Kiddush Hashem, to make himself a korban to the Kedushas Shabbos. He died for Kedushas Shabbos. So now Bnos Tzolachad, who are the daughters of Tzolachad, what are they? The Meshugoyim to go into Eretz Yisrael, that give their whole life to go into Eretz Yisrael, right? So they come to get a portion in Eretz Yisrael. Makes sense. That's what Rashi says they were tzaddikim b'nei tzaddikim. The whole essence was Eretz Yisrael. Now, just look up their names for a second. I love analyzing their names. Machla stands for the word mechila, which could be a circle of celebration. And it also means machal, which means to forgive. Forgive the sin of the Jewish people who rejected Eretz Yisrael and let us go into Eretz Yisrael. Noah it indicates movement. Let us move to Eretz Yisrael. Chagla is just like it sounds. Chag L'Hashem. We can only do the Chag L'Hashem, Sukkot is the Chag L'Hashem, if we have the Beis HaMikdash. Malka, we need Melech HaMoshiach, and we need a Melech in Yerushalayim. But Tirza is Hashem should accept Ritzei V'Achlitzei Hashem Elokeinu. Every one of their words seems to reflect the tremendous yearning for Hashem and for Eretz Yisrael.
It also reflected the women mythology.
Now here comes the power punch. Everything in this parasha runs counter to them having any chance of getting a positive answer. They did something completely that should have been rejected and dead on arrival. Why? Because Klal Yisrael was just counted, right? Right before they appear, at the beginning of Pinchus, right? We get all the recounting of Bnei Yisrael. Now this count focuses on, more than anything else, families. Okay? What does it say? Suas Rosh Kol Adas Yisrael Mi Benes Rishon V'Mala Lebeis Avo Sam, based on the fathers. Kol Yotzei Tzava B'Yisrael. Does that include women? No. Except maybe today, yes. Okay. Mi Benes Rishon V'Mala Reuven Bechor Yisrael. Why do you have to call him a Bechor? It was only male Bechors. B'nei Reuven, Chanoch, Mishpachas Chanochi, Lepalu, Mishpachas Apulei, Lechetzim. Every single thing that's mentioned in the entire account is all patriarchal. Has everything to do with fathers and sons. Everything. And Mata. So that you have number of subdivisions. I heard Rabbi Kestenbaum, Rabbi Kestenbaum passed away. He was a very special man. We should really dedicate Lilias Nishmaso. He saved many Jews using Mossad-like techniques. You have to read about his book. He knew how to charm Goyim. by giving them gifts and cigars, and people who had,
What country was
he went to several different countries. He got people out of Iran, he got people out
Because he was in
of
America.
Sparta. Yeah, he would go on these rescue
Because I
missions.
knew he was in America.
Yeah, and he's remarkable stories. He just knew how to get Hamish with these people, and they did him crazy, incredible favors to free Jews from the most precarious circumstances. He charmed them. He won them over. Anyway, so his son said at the Shiva, he says, if you read the Parsha, he said he felt like in Ramat Beit Shemesh there were many layers of community and family that, kind of comforted them. Like they were embraced by layers upon layers. What does it mean, layers upon layers? You have the close family, and then you have the extended family, and then you have the Beit Av, which is like the tribal family, and then you have the Shevet. And each one of those is determined by the male identity. After having finished this entire thing, Beno Salafchad have the gall to get up and suggest that they should get the inheritance. It runs counter to every single thing.
Sometimes it needs that goal.
Now it says, listen to the last words of that count. It says, Ki amar Hashem lahem mos yamutu b'midbar v'lo mehem ish ki im Kalev ben Yefuna v'Yeshua ben Kalev. Every man was gone, and now these are all the other men to replace them. No mention of women. And all of a sudden, but Tikravna b'no Salafchad. How could that be? What gave them the chutzpah to get up and ask? And I think that the message here is, well, it does say in Chazal, they didn't just get up and start pining. They first were smart enough to consult. They went layer by layer and stage by stage and discussed their problem with their superior, with their heads, until they finally got to the head of Menashe, and then everybody came out and they said, okay, now we have to bring this to Moshe. Because remember, nothing came to Moshe until it was vetted out by the lower system of Dayanim. But it came not only to Moshe and Aaron, but all the Eidah, the great Chachamim, which means that they were wise enough. It shows you a political idea also. Don't just stand up and suggest revolution, but work it through, set the stage, develop soften the territory a little bit. And then they were listened to. And Moshe didn't have an answer for them. It was one of the places where Moshe just did not have an answer. Didn't have an answer.
Did he not know, or did he forget?
So that's a good question. It can't be that he didn't know, because he knew it all. But it could be that Hashem blocked his memory.
It was like a punishment in the way he answered.
But also a schus for them, that the Beno Salafchad should merit having a special Shiloh v'tshuva. I like to say this is the beginning of responsa literature. Shilohs and Shuvos. They ask Rabbi, and you get an answer.
As
This was
with Pinchus. As with Pinchus.
correct. He asked his Rebbe, he asked Moshe Rabbeinu, and that was a Shiloh v'tshuva. And then we also have by the Nebuch, by the Birkas Hashem, the Mevarachas Hashem, that